correspond to. Nationalism. Before talking about Turkish nationalism, however, Kemalist nationalism, I should make a distinction between two sorts of nationalism: civic nationalism and cultural nationalism. Cultural nationalism basically says that a nation is an ethnic group whose roots go back to thousands of years ago, and who has a common culture, a common language, a common history, myths, etc. An ethnic group forms a nation. On the other hand, the civic understanding of the nation says that a nation is something founded by individuals on the principle of citizenship, rather than a common language or a common history going back to thousands of years. They rather refer to some political ideals, principles. Of course, this idea came to its peak during the French Revolution. French ideals of égalité, fraternité, and liberté. Now, out of these two understandings of nationalism, nation and nationalism, Turkish nationalism corresponds to not civic, but the ethnic cultural understanding of nationalism. For the founders of Turkey, a Turkish person was a person whose ancestors mostly came from Central Asia, who spoke Turkish as native language, and who was a Muslim also. So this was to a great extent exclusive, but not all. What do I mean by that? Assimilation was always welcomed. So a person who didn't speak Turkish as native language, as long as that person is a Muslim, he or she is welcome to become Turkified in the long run or middle term. But non-Muslims are excluded. So even today, or until very recently, we heard, for example, a former president of Turkey, Ahmet Sezer, calling non-Muslims in Turkey, non-Muslim citizens of Turkey, as foreigners, whose ancestors have been in this country for so long, and they have been citizens. And in the Turkish constitution, it states that any person who is tied to Turkey through citizenship is a Turk. This is a civic notion of citizenship. However, in practice, it is not like that. In practice, it is a cultural, ethnic understanding of nation and nationalism that dominated Kemalist ideology. The second pillar is secularism. And again, two sorts of secularism. A French model we have in which the religion is seen as something superstition, which should be controlled and kept at a distance from the public affairs. And the second model is Anglo-American model, in which the state remains at an equal distance to the religions. That is, it remains neutral towards religions. This is a separation of church and state, whereas the first French model is the control of religion by the state. Out of these two models, Kemalist ideology of secularism corresponds to the French model. It is the control of the religion by the state. And third, atheism. This was both economic and philosophical atheism, which exalts the state. That is, in the economic sphere, the state must be powerful. After 1930s, in Turkey, the state was the leading figure in the economic development. Also, in the society, the state was seen as the father and as the leader and transformer of the society. Not individuals or private groups formed by individuals are seen as primary actors of development, but the state. And this still continues. within the Kemalist circles at least. So I argue that the sufferings of differences in Turkey, that is oppressions and intolerances towards Kurds, Alawites, the Sunni Muslims and the non-Muslims are to a great extent caused by this ideology. To a great extent, within the society, these groups get along with one another unless there is a big manipulation or provocation. The real problem is caused by the state. That is, the intolerance at the political level is much harsher. So, for example, Kurds were believed to be future Turks. They were Muslims, so they qualify to become Turks. In the future, they will learn Turkish, and they will forget Kurdish. Their names have been changed. The names of places like villages, towns, they were all changed into Turkish. And Kurdish also prohibited. And there was fine for speaking Kurdish for each word. You know, if you utter one word, it's, let's say, 5, I think that was para back then, less than kurush, I think. And so there were replacement of population throughout the country. So it was believed that they are going to be Turks eventually. They were welcomed. Other group, the Alawites. Alawites also suffered at the end of the state. The Alawites are a syncretic religion. Some people say they are Muslims. Some people, even Alawis, say that they are not Muslim. There is a debate, but definitely they are not Sunni. They don't call them as Sunnis. So they are different people. But since the Ottoman times, they have been persecuted because they have been seen as heretics. So with the foundation of the Republic, they were also persecuted. Because in 1924, in Turkey, the Directorate of Religious Affairs was founded with the purpose of teaching and organizing religion. And the religion that they took as the basis was Sunni Hanefi version of Islam. So excluding Alawis. So the state was basically organizing religion, controlling the religion, excluding some of its citizens. And also, in 1925 in Turkey, all the religious orders were dismantled, including the Alevi and Bektashi tekkes and all religious orders. So even today, Alevis' places of worship are not recognized as places of worship by the Turkish state. And also another intolerance that they are suffering today is that their children are forced to attend courses, religious courses in the Turkish school system. After the 1980 coup d'etat in Turkey, the last coup d'etat, full coup d'etat that Turkey experienced, there was the mandatory courses of religion that are taught in our schools. So Alevi parents do not want to send their children to those courses, but the state forces them. So this was another intolerance suffered by them. Sunnis, even though the state takes the Sunni Hanefi tradition as the basis and establishes the Directorate of Religious Affairs, it discriminates against the Sunnis as well. This is caused by the secularism understanding of Kemalism, which is, harsh control of the religion. Religion must be related to the consciences of the individuals. It should not be presented or represented at the public sphere. So there is no room for religious expression in the public sphere, according to this understanding. So There was, for example, in the